Hi, I'm Thomas Flegel, Assistant Professor of American History at Columbia State Community College. We're here at Fort Granger, Franklin, Tennessee. Oftentimes this is considered an afterthought because it played a small role in the large battle that happened here November 30th, 1864. Sadly, I think, many people think Franklin and the Civil War is a story about 5 hours long, how long that battle took. In reality, this place was an object of desire for several years. And in 1863, the Union thought so much of it, they were going to build a fort, which eventually became the nucleus of a large organism to hold on to this pivotal piece. This is the front lines, just south of me, Winstead Hill, a place we passed through several times when we're going up Columbia Pike into town. That was the front lines of the American Civil War, right here. In May of 1863, nearly 10,000 Union troops stood. Just south of that hill, near Columbia and Spring Hill, 15,000 estimated Confederates were. And for that long spring of 1863, a standoff occurred when both sides stared at each other, trying to figure out what to do next. One of the most beautiful things about Fort Granger, it's a park surrounded by trees, beautifully shaded. On a windy day like this, we're rather nestled in the arms of nature itself. But in 1863, trees were an obstacle and the Union Army knew it. What they did was basically tear every single piece of foliage around here except for 2 tall trees that they used as observation posts. And that wasn't enough. They looked around and realized there are buildings and forests and orchards that also had to go. In April and May of 1863, crews of up to 600 men traveled about a mile in every direction, Roper's Knob downtown, as far away as near the Carter House and the Lotz House downtown. Crews would take almost any type of cutting implement they can get their hands on, 2-man saws, axes, even large cables and teams of horses to drag down buildings, structures, and trees. One man estimated in the course of an afternoon, 50 acres of hardwood, beech, walnut, oak were destroyed just north of here. If you were to come here in June of 1863, you would see a land of devastation. Abattis or abatis, spiked trees, felled forests, and each and every branch that they possibly could get their hands on spiked outwards so anybody charging this fort could see it for miles and realize it was a porcupine ready to kill. I'm standing on the west side of Fort Granger. On April 10th, 1863, there was a skirmish here, a rather large proportion. It's known as the Battle of Douglas Church, a prominent church just south of town. In reality, Franklin, the town I'm overlooking right now, was the site of that battle. About 200 men from cavalry of the 28th Mississippi made their way through Louisburg Pike and made it up here almost to the fort, several of them, until they were pushed back by the 40th Ohio and artillery from right where I'm standing. Indeed, on that day, artillery shells fell into the city of Franklin. Several buildings were heavily damaged. Huge craters were seen as far away as what is modern-day Omar College. I'm walking in the moat area of Fort Granger, and here are the main walls. One word that comes to mind, formidable. For Colonel Emerson Updike, who would eventually have stardom reach upon him when he becomes a hero of the Battle of Franklin, was rather miserable in 1863 while in this fort because he said, "That's the problem. This fort is too formidable." He said, "We must get to the enemy, and being entrenched like this, they will never touch us and we will never touch them." Updike and many people knew, in order for the Civil War to end, they had to get out of the forts and either go home or go to fighting. Essentially, every human-built structure is for defense against the elements. In wartime, structures like this, Fort Granger, is used against enemies. Sadly, oftentimes the enemies that were the most lethal were not dressed in gray. Here at Granger, for about 4 months, there was a high intensity of soldier population, and as a consequence, disease, illness, exposure, accident caused quite a few deaths. Officially, the 1864 Battle of Franklin claimed 189 Union lives. By my estimate, 250 Union men died here in the spring of 1863 just trying to live.